Hello and welcome to the Passion Show. My name is Phil, and joining me as always is my co-host Kyle.
Hello.
And this week we have a returning guest, Samir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Ovation.
Thank
Woo!
you. Thank you. I can't. I hope you guys never go to visual so you can see it's me that starts to clap every time.
No, it was our live studio audience.
Oh yeah. Sorry, hi guys. How you doing? Nice to be here this evening.
So in today's episode, we're talking about Studio Ghibli movies. Tell us, what are Studio Ghibli movies?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Kyle. So I don't know. It's always kind of weird to kind of describe what Studio Ghibli or Ghibli. It depends.
Ghibli.
Yeah,
Oh.
some people say Ghibli, don't they? Some
I'd say
people
Ghibli.
Yeah, I think I'll say Ghibli. I mean, I'm sure there's a correct way to do it, but
I'm not a bellend.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You took the words out of my mouth.
I'm gonna cut that.
No, don't cut that, don't cut that. People need to hear. So I guess again, the kind of the easy description is it's kind of like the Disney animated films of Japan, which
Yeah.
of course is kind of, again, like it's kind of lazy, but I suppose it's the closest thing you can say. But a lot of the time, the Studio Ghibli films or Ghibli, they kind of deal with like the kind of much more adult themes at the same time, kind of being for kids' films. do you
They're
know
like
what I mean?
family films, sort of in the vein of Pixar, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess the most famous one's probably Spirited Away or something like that.
We watched that once. Do you remember?
Mm,
One of our housemates had it on, and I watched it. I was like, whoa.
Academy
Is
Award winning.
Is that the one where
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy turns into a dragon?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
It was insane.
It's kind of, I guess it's like Alice in Wonderland either, where she
Isn't-
goes into this fantasy world and,
Oh no, I don't think it's on.
well, it's like a dimension where it's like all ghosts and spirits.
And
Spirited
there's the
Away.
one with the mask.
Yeah, No Face. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
demon that keeps eating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We mentioned Studio Ghibli a while ago.
Yeah.
When we said they understand that children can be like scared
Yeah,
and they can understand things. Like, is that one of the things that's like appealing to it?
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Appeal about it.
Definitely. It's crazy as well because I think the way I kind of came to Studio Ghibli films was like I didn't really watch them as a kid. Like I didn't really watch any of them.
You
as
got
a kid.
into it when you were an adult.
Yeah, I got into it as I was older, probably like 19, 20-ish. I started
Yeah.
watching my first ones. But at the same time, it has this really kind of crazy way of making you feel weirdly nostalgic, even though, like
Yeah.
I said, I never saw them as a kid, but there is something really familiar and kind of warm about them that you kind of can latch onto that kind of makes you feel like a kid. But at the same time, the characters are always much more complex and it's like they're more questionable, and the villains usually make a lot more of a compelling argument
They're
when you
like
see it.
fleshed out.
Yeah, it's a lot more fleshed out villains, and you kind of again fleshed out heroes that are kind of morally complex, and that's where kind of the tension comes from in the narrative. It's never really just like a ABC kind of plot point. It's kind of like these questionable acts all the time, kind of bouncing off each other, I suppose.
Whenever I hear about Studio Ghibli, like when I watch reviews or anything like that, when I try to research it, it seems like it's a real like art form, like with their films, because someone will be like, "Oh, there's a new Studio Ghibli."
Yeah.
Or, like, isn't
Yeah.
like the last Studio Ghibli, haven't they like shut down now?
Yeah, Hayao Miyazaki, he kind of like retires and unretires quite a bit.
Was
So
was the last film called The Red Turtle?
yeah, I think that was kind of like that wasn't entirely Studio Ghibli. That was kind of like they collaborated with quite a few other studios. I think they produced it, but I don't think it was entirely their film. But
That's a fucking great
that
film.
is great. Yeah, that's so
It's
good.
beautiful.
I saw that in the cinema, and it was just
Where is
like
it?
It's Well, let's Samir like describe it.
I was gonna go. You go.
Okay, I'll do
Yeah,
it.
you go, you
Go
go.
on, I'll do it. So this guy gets like washed up on like a desert island, and he's trying to like escape off it by like building boats. But every time he's on the boat, like his little raft, it gets destroyed, and he keeps seeing this red turtle, and like I want to say more, but I kind of just want to say
Yeah.
like watch it,
Yeah.
what it gets up to and stuff. And there's no talking.
It sounds quite wholesome.
Yeah,
It is very wholesome.
There's no dialogue at all. It's like meant to
Yeah.
be universal, so anyone can watch it.
Yeah, because I think it was like 3 or 4 different countries ended up being involved in the production. I think it was like Dutch. I want to say 2 of like European countries as well that kind of like collaborate. Because like you said, there's no dialogue, so it's supposed to be this like a universal language. You don't need anything. You kind of get everything from.
It's crazy how much story and like character comes
Yeah.
from literally no talking.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a good point. I mean, that applies to the rest of the Studio Ghibli films as well. I think that really does, and they kind of take full advantage of it being an audio-visual forum, and especially the kind of with the animation styles they kind of have. They just have this playground to just do literally whatever they want and kind of go as fantastical as they like. But at the same time, some of this stuff is like hyper realistic. It's like the way they kind of caption just the really subtle movements from people and the world and that kind of stuff. I think there's this video essay on YouTube where it's kind of talking about, it uses the example of Sophie in Spirited Away, as she's putting on her shoes on, she like it kind of puts a comparison by like other Disney princesses and stuff, and you know Disney princess always kind of puts her shoes on and they're perfectly fit and she can go run away, whereas in Spirited Away she kind of like has to, when you put your shoes on, you give them like a little tap and
Like
you
what a normal person
yeah
does?
you
Yeah,
squeeze
yeah.
into them a bit and you kind of mess around with the tongue or something like that, and that's what they kind of do. So
Oh, that's
it's
very
just
nice.
it's just the really little subtle things like that that kind of
It's all character building, isn't it?
Exactly,
I think
yeah.
you can do it without being blatant about it, like with the red turtle. and
exactly
stuff.
yeah. So yeah, man, it really allows for like this really unique kind of little playground they've got, like I said. Yeah.
Do you? Is it like, are they similar to Pixar kind of in the way they make like family films, but they can appeal to different generations for different reasons? Is it?
Yeah, and I guess it's like I think there's something else we mentioned in the cartoons episode when I was last here. It was something you know, it's like in Japan, it's like the cartoons are just considered a different art form. They're not really
Yeah.
considered for kids.
It's just universal.
It's
for
just
them.
and like you said, because it's such like a high quality craft out there, they kind of see it as this really skillful, you know, thing that you kind of should appreciate as much as live action.
I like how much weight they give to it.
Yeah,
like, saying
yeah.
it's important. Like it's an art form. Like I like that rather than it just being like family films. You know.
Yeah.
Make for kids.
Exactly. So I mean, obviously Pixar kind of does deal with things in an adult way and that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like when that film comes out, it's people are always kind of gonna go say, I'll go take the kids or something. Whereas you know in Japan it would probably just be a group of adults would be like, oh yeah, we'll go see the new film. I guess
Yeah.
that's a difference. So yeah, I think so.
So what films apart from Spirited Away and like the Red Turtle did Studio Ghibli
The
make?
big blue ting.
My Neighbor Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you've probably seen his face everywhere. That little
Yeah.
fuck. You've probably seen it. Nah, I love that film, man. I think that was one of the first ones I watched. But yeah, you do see him in every shop you go. He's like backpacks.
Yeah.
Like you know, everything you can think of. You know, you go in Forbidden Planet and there's like a whole aisle of Totoro, I think.
In my cinema, like whenever we do like special showings for Studio Ghibli films like
Yeah.
Spirited Away
Yeah.
or My Neighbor Totoro, they always sell out.
Always
like
sell
that.
out. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's always rammed. I think I've saved you.
Yeah, I
when
was
you
I
came
went
to
I went to the one, I think it was in like February, was it the Howl's
Yeah,
Moving
yeah.
Castle one?
Yeah.
Is that a new one?
That was I think that's 2004.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so it was like I think it was a 4K remaster that they showed, which was bloody beautiful. It was so it was just obviously it was just stunning. Obviously I've never seen it in the cinema before because I didn't see it when I was a kid. So yeah, man, to see that on the screen, like you said, it was a
Yeah.
sold out screen. Everyone
Yeah.
everyone was super hyped. There was so many Totoro backpacks and socks and slippers and everything you can think of. But yeah, man, Howl's Moving Castle is something else. I think that's like because this is what in my opinion, this is what I kind of think. You know, I even wrote an essay about this at uni. Was
Ooh.
like I think Studio Ghibli, what it does best is this idea of like magic realism, which is obviously kind of what like Pan's Labyrinth does as well, and Alice in Wonderland. So it's obviously
Balancing
that
the magic with the reality.
exactly. So you have like the parallel worlds, you have the normal human world, and you have the fantastical monster-y type world as
I
well.
like stuff like that, like because I did a similar essay. I did like Coraline and Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Because they both contain a fantasy world within a
And it's,
real
yeah,
one.
it's the same thing, and I really think a lot of Studio Ghibli films do it better than no one else, man. I think when they're kind of like doing stuff like that, because Howl's Moving Castle is the same type of thing. But I'll talk about before I kind of go off too much, but I'll talk about Porco Rosso, which is my favorite out of them all,
Okay.
which is the one I have a tattoo of. Just to mention
yeah.
my tattoos again, I feel like I mentioned that on the last one as well, right?
Where is that tattoo?
It's right here. It's on. It's that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's a little like dude with he hasn't got a face, but he's got sunglasses and like a little pig nose and like his little aviation hat.
Little plane above him. That's
Yeah.
Porco Rosso himself.
really
Porco.
nice.
Oh yeah.
Porco, that's the Crimson Pig. It translates to, I believe. And it's man, I can't say enough about the film. It's about
Really?
it's about a pig that is a pilot. So obviously you have the whole thing about when pigs fly, and it's like this. It takes place sort of like I think it's just after World War II or during World War II, and it's about this pig pilot, Porco Rosso, who is the greatest pilot in all of
Is it aware of how stupid it is?
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
But it's like it doesn't really make fun of itself, but it puts itself in this setting where it's like you kind of know it looks silly, but it's the character of Porco Rosso himself is so cool that you kind of forget he's a pig at times. I'm serious. You guys got like.
Is he the coolest dude
He's the
ever?
coolest pig you'll ever meet. He's the coolest pig, honestly. Like he's kind of like this. I guess the closest other comparison is like, you know, Leon the Professional. He's kind of like that. He's kind of like this really like one-liner, always
Chill
smoking a
dude.
cigarette. He's always just kind of putting out these one-liners. He's got all these ladies falling in love with him.
Is it other animals, or is he the only animal?
Just him. He was a pilot that got a curse put on him by a witch, so it's just him and then a bunch of other normal dudes.
And he still has mad beards.
Yeah, yeah. And the people still want Porco.
Oh.
Sure.
Was he called Porco anyway?
No, I think he was called Marco when he was a human. And then they just changed it to Porco Rosso, something like that.
I'm really interested. Like,
Honestly, dude, it's great, and it's just about him flying around. It takes place around the Adriatic Sea, so like around like modern day Croatia and all that kind of stuff. And it's just about him owning the skies, man. It's about him like,
nuts.
yeah, and
So do you know the way when we talked about Image Comics,
Yeah.
the other, like on the other podcast? So I'm gonna say that again. Do you know when we talked about Image Comics on the other podcast, and we said about how they have a lot of creative freedom and
Yeah.
control? Is it similar with Studio Ghibli?
it is. It's kind of interesting because it's like you have Hayao Miyazaki who directed the bulk of these films, and I guess that he's like the Walt Disney but less
Yeah.
anti-Semitic. Is that the word I was thinking of? Yeah, it's like him. So he's like a friendlier less racist Walt Disney. You hope.
Yeah, yeah.
So he kind of like is the main creator of a lot of these stories. So he's another one that's like you know, I mentioned Akira Kurosawa in my samurai film, but he's another one
Your
that's just like
boy.
a drill. My boy, me and Akira. He's another one that's just like a drill master, and he
Yeah.
he knows what he wants, and you're gonna work to his standard, or
You
you're
find
gonna.
that a lot with like Asian cinema, don't you?
You
Because
do,
they take
yeah.
it so seriously.
Because like I said, it's such a profession, it's such a craft.
It's
that
an
they're
art,
like,
isn't
yeah,
it?
and it's like obviously we're here to create, but we're here to, you know, work our asses off, like, you know, to really get.
Because
Really
they love
get done.
they love work ethic, don't they?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, that I don't know why that reminded me, but yeah, obviously I'm going to Japan in August,
Oh, nice.
so I'm definitely going to be going to the Studio Ghibli Museum.
Oh, that'd be sick.
I don't think you can take pictures in there. I'm pretty sure.
I was literally gonna say, you don't take some pictures.
Yeah, I'm going to take a lot of pictures. Well, I'll try, but I don't want to get thrown in Japanese prison.
I'll get banned from watching Studio
Yeah,
Ghibli films.
no, never again. They're going to confiscate my Porco Rosso Blu-ray.
Confiscate your tattoo. Get that off.
Yeah, they get rid of that, cross that over. But yeah, about the creative freedom thing, I think that's right. So I think, but a lot of the animators are just kind of held to the standard of Hayao Miyazaki a lot of the time, and kind of like you can express yourself and you can work to this level, but it still has to be within my vision, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen any of the Studio Ghibli films?
I've seen the Red Turtle.
Yeah.
I really liked it as well.
Yeah.
I've seen bits of Spirited Away.
Yeah.
I think the animation's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. See, there's My Neighbor Totoro. There's Kiki's Delivery Service.
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service. I'll get to that one because one of my friends, Leon, not your Leon, he got me into some of the Studio Ghibli films, and his favorite is Kiki's Delivery Service. He's been watching them as a kid and stuff, and man, when you talk about that wholesome, it's just like, it's real sweet. It's just
Yeah,
real sweet. It's just
She's a witch, isn't she?
yeah, she's a witch. She turns 13, and in this world, when you're a witch, you kind of, when you hit 13, you go off and find work as a witch.
Yeah.
So Kiki, she kind of flies around, and she finds a job as like a basically just a post lady for this small little town. And like I said, man, it's just real wholesome. But it kind of coincides with the events of, I forget what the name of that big blimp was that crashed. But if you know what I'm talking about,
Hindenburg?
yeah, I think it's that. I'm pretty sure. It's that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't think it actually calls it that, but it's like an exact recreation. Like I think they even have the radio dialogue
wow.
of it in the film. So it's about her being this little post lady in the town, and then she has to help save the blimp crash.
Whoa.
But like I said, it's just like really, really, really sweet. It's kind of, if you kind of look at it that way, there's almost like the same formula as like an early MCU film, where it just really focuses on the hero's story and kind of the ups and downs of the hero's arc. And there's not really a villain in that way, but it's not like a fleshed out villain, but it's just kind of like, yeah, man, it's just this witch being cool, flying around. She's got a great little black cat. It's great, man. It's so beautifully drawn as well. That's another thing. I was called like 87 or 88 or something.
Oh, really?
And you look at like other animations from that time. Obviously, it's not that they're not cool, but it's just like you said, it's really just such an art form. The way a lot of the time they do it.
I know, like looking at these films, these Studio Ghibli films, like the artwork and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
obviously, like I'm aware of like the characters and
Yeah.
stuff. it seems like even though there probably is common threads running through them to make them a Studio Ghibli film,
Yeah.
like they have their own traits. They seem like the animation varies quite a bit. Like, does it?
Yeah, it
Because I
feels
know,
like
like,
it.
if you look at like the Red Turtle, I know it's
Mm.
not proper Studio Ghibli, but if you look at that compared to like Kiki's Delivery Service,
Yeah.
like it looks different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I think a lot of the time they really match the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, I guess an example of that is like they've had Princess Mononoke, which is probably their most grown up and complex film they have, I think, in my opinion. Or maybe like Grave of the Fireflies, which is like their Schindler's List, man. It's a beautiful film, but it's just
Wow.
depressing as shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which is it's. I mean, that kind of goes to show that they do take it as like a grown up kind
Yeah,
of
because
version.
grown-ups can just watch it.
Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies, man. It just kind of takes place after the Hiroshima bombing. It's just kind of
Wow.
like going around the site, and it's like all these fireflies supposedly came out, so that's why it's called that. So it's heavy. It's one of those films where it's
Sounds
kind of
heavy.
cool to watch once, but I don't know if you want to revisit it because it's one of them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sounds like a formative experience.
It is formative. You know
Yeah.
what? It is. Well, what was I talking about before?
The different animations.
The different animations. Yeah. Princess Mononoke is a lot less kind of like childlike. It's a lot more grown up. It's like people are less smiley. Characters are like kind of more frowning stuff. And you kind of notice the little sort of differences like that. And it's like, I think they have like they show a bit of blood, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of crazy as well, considering it's still a kids film. But then you compare that to like Ponyo, which was like, that's another really, really wholesome one. It's kind of like, I guess the equivalent to that is like The Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
Yes.
I imagine like when it's stories that are more centered around children, they sort of
Yeah.
play to that, don't they? And they'll make it more bright and colourful
Exactly.
and smooth. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, definitely that, and that's exactly what Ponyo is like. That's just like this really colourful, vivid, kind of imaginative, like little sandbox for them to kind of do what they want to do. And
Yeah. How many Studio Ghibli films are there at the minute?
I think there's 22 in total.
22?
Yeah, 22.
Same as the MCU.
So there you go.
Yeah.
I think MCU's made a bit more money though, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, but so I think it's 22. It's always kind of rumored whether I think that they supposedly are working on 3 new films.
Oh really?
Like I said, Hayao Miyazaki's notorious for retiring and unretiring.
Well, I imagine he just retires and then he's like, "Oh, I like that wet stuff.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
think-
go be a drill sergeant again."
I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's what it
They
is.
just
So
get bored, don't they?
yeah, so there's there's 22, and I mean, obviously I've mentioned just kind of like a few of the big ones, but you just need to look on like the list of Studio Ghibli films, and you see there's a bunch. And I think even the lesser ones that people kind of don't really talk about and forget about are still better than a lot of animation that you kind of see just in general a lot of the time. Yeah,
So you've inspired me.
yeah.
I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna watch Studio Ghibli film.
Which one are you gonna watch?
Which one should I watch?
Okay, let's think. I suppose. Well, let's do it this way. What kind of what tickles your fancy? What genre do you like? What kind of mood are you feeling in this afternoon?
I'm feeling something
Something's gonna blow your head off.
light-hearted.
Something light-hearted,
An
Yeah.
easy watch.
an easy watch.
Easy watch. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with Ponyo, like the one we just
Okay.
mentioned. Yeah, I'll go with Ponyo.
Is it
Yeah,
really like nice and wholesome?
really nice, really wholesome. It's just like this beautiful kind of it's a little sea adventure.
Nice.
You've kind of got some really like beautiful, crazy underwater animation sequences. Really wholesome. It's got a great little catchy theme song.
Ooh.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I think you can have a great
I'll check
Friday
that out.
afternoon.
There we go.
I
think
I
so.
find it. I think it's really interesting the way the times you've came on the podcast, you've talked about samurai films and Image Comics, and they're really like niche, aren't they? Like they kind of have cult followings. But do you think
Yeah.
like Studio Ghibli's getting bigger, or do you think it's at a level where it just is?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, I suppose, because I feel like it's almost like it has like generational discovery of it, right? It kind of feels like a lot of the time, I suppose it's quite rare that in the UK at least, anyway, we grow up watching these films because we already have like The Lion King and Jungle
But
Book.
we have
and
our own.
we have our own
versions
kind
and
of
our
stuff.
own
Yeah,
animations.
yeah, and
Because I imagine they're huge in Japan.
yeah,
Well,
they're
like we
huge.
said,
yeah.
like everyone's seen that big blue bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everyone's seen his face everywhere. Everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
But now it's maybe there is more. Especially with the internet, and you can stream anything you want at any time, legally or illegally.
So I think we'll sort of wrap it up there. Thanks to Kyle, as always, for being my co-host.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks to Samir for coming on and telling us about Studio Ghibli films.
Thank you for the Ghibli Ghibli members. Yes, we did it, guys. We did it. I've decided this episode is going to surpass Vicky's K-pop episode. This is going to be. We can't surpass your MCU one because that's on like 300 views.
That's the
or something
first
like
one,
that.
innit? That's
So
the
the
OG.
biggest-
It's got all the hype around it. We can't do
Oh, there's
that.
a bit of drama there.
This is what I'm saying. this is what I'm gonna do, guys.
He's been looking at the stats.
Yeah, I have. I went and did my research. I can't remember the exact numbers, but this is gonna surpass. This is gonna become second most on your channel,
I
and
hope you're right.
it's gonna guarantee you a sponsorship.
Oh,
Okay.
well, hopefully if it does, more people will be aware of Studio Ghibli.
Exactly.
You know
Yeah,
what I
we're
mean?
all about the Ghibli Ghiblis.
If you have any passions yourself that you want us to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments because we'd love to talk about your passion.
Or hit us up in our DMs if you want to come on the show yourself.
Yeah, if you want to come on the show and talk about your passion, we'd be more than happy to have you. We're always looking for guests. But other than that, we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.